I'm really not into any restraining aids. I think when I first started riding, as a kid, I was naturally aggressive, and I would be sent horses eventing that were stopping and not going on the cross country, and had lost confidence or weren't inclined to be super honest. And I initially started by being a very tough operator and getting these horses going, and it meant that there was blood shed often enough with these horses. Now, you'd argue the outcome was good because the horses became useful and valuable again, so they got looked after again once they got going. But today, I'm not interested in one speck of blood on my horses, so I don't want to see any force at all. I hate draw reins or side reins. If a horse is being ridden properly from behind into the hand, he'll come round and like we just did a masterclass 2 weekends ago on Piaffe and Passage, and like we produced, I don't know, 14 riders all producing Piaffe Passage, and all the horses come on the bit just as they start to activate up from behind and come over the back. They just naturally go on the bit. So I certainly, I feel that if you use some of that restraining gear, it works on the horses that are extremely long suffering. But I think there's probably about 70% of the horse population out there isn't like massively long suffering, and some in that 70% there is a population of top performers if they get a rider that actually wants to ride well. We will ride our horses in dressage saddles with a snaffle bit to start with, always. No bits that just soft in their mouth. They're soft because the horse submits because they're so damn savage, and I hate that line. Oh, this is really nice on the horse's mouth. Look how he folds his head down. It means that somebody's applied something that damn well hurts and they don't want to put their nose up again. I hate that line. Such a con line. And so I'm really simple. I keep my gear really simple. We have a guy breaking with us called Gordon Bishop, and basically we just don't buck our horses out, and we don't tie them up to snigging poles to teach them to tie up. One of the things about tying them up to snigging poles is that they do learn to tie up, but in the throes of sort of pulling back, and you have a strong halter on it, and maybe you have a car tube, which means it's not quite so abrupt, but they try so hard, most horses pull their sacroiliac ligament, and you're talking about, I don't know, probably 80%, 85% of horses have all pulled their sacroiliac ligament, and that's when they do it, when they're being broken and they're being smashed around or taught to tie up. Sacroiliac ligament gives you low-grade back pain for the rest of your life. And so we don't do any of that. And it does mean at the end of the day, like we work really hard at being good riders, and I understand most people don't do that. They want the horse to work very hard at being cooperative with them, whether they're riding well or not. And I get that. That's, being a really good rider is not something that most people have the time or the inclination to be involved in. But in so doing, we try and leave our horses intact without low-grade back pains, without sort of physical damage, so that in due time, as the partnership develops, they have the potential and also the willingness to try and give their best shot. Now, if you can encourage a horse to give you his best shot, you're well on the way to going to the Olympics. So, yeah, it's a different philosophy. Because of our tradition of 2-year-old racing, we think riding horses really young is okay. It's not, because for us the average Olympic horse is probably 15 or 16, and so it doesn't matter how well he goes as a 5-year-old, and no matter how much he's won as a 6-year-old, you're kidding if you think you're going to the Olympics. You're not allowed to go to the Olympics anyway. They've got to be 8 before they're allowed to go into those grades. So, you just do your sums. You're a loser if you go too early. Commercially, it's good. To sell a horse before it's been with you too long, and the longer it's with you, the more overheads you have and the less your profitability. So from a commercial point of view, I understand it, but from a point of view of longevity and trying to go to the games, then we wouldn't start working our horses properly. We'd break them in, sometimes at 2.5, 3, but until they're 3.5, 4, I'm not really interested in working them very hard. I remember one time I was at an auction, and I decided I was going to show the stallions off a little bit differently. And I had one of my staff members, a bloke called Dan Pearce, and he was really tall and lanky. I said, listen, Dan, you're going to run this horse up in hand, this stallion. We're going to show off because he can really move. And Dan sort of ran like a turkey with a, lame foot. He was a hopeless runner. And I told Dan to run. Well, it was a bit pathetic, and I yelled at Dan, run, Dan, run. And Dan went, Dan was trying, and I had a whip, and I'm sort of trying to crack the whip to get the stallion to go, but Dan was useless. And the crowd, sniggering a bit, and I said, Dan, you're bloody useless in front of the crowd. Told him he was useless, and I could see Dan frustrated, and he was trying hard. And I said, here, give me that horse. And I took the horse off him, and I said, here's the whip. And I should have, I could see his eyes light up, just very gently. And I could imagine what Dan was thinking. Oh, I'll give this bloke some curry for for sort of doing me down in front of the crowd. And off I went, and I said, Dan, chase him with the whip. And Dan got into the whip, and I chase him. Well, a stallion comes across the diagonal, and his legs are up round his ears, and I'm going, that's how you do it. Well, we're halfway across the diagonal. I'm at full sprint, and, I just stumbled a little bit. Well, when you stumble, you always recover. Well, as a kid, you always recover anyway. I remember to this day sort of stumbling and not thinking anything of it, just waiting for me to get my balance at full flight. I wasn't going to take a break. Well, stumbled and bang, I hit the surface, and the place was packed. It was standing room only. There were people everywhere. And then as I hit the ground, it was like the bow wave of a speedboat. The surface was spraying up with my helmet sort of hitting the ground. And then the stallion got a fright and cleared out, and I'm hanging on and leaving these great skid marks. I'm in white and across the arena, and eventually I couldn't hold the horse cleared out, and I got up and I was covered in surface. Well, the crowd thought that was hilarious, and they were falling out of the grandstand laughing, and there wasn't much I could say, and I'd given Dan such a hard time and then made a total goose of myself. But I'm used to doing that sort of thing, and so that was I don't know if it was a low point, but it made me nod my head and go, yep, you deserve that one. Oh yeah, well, like right now we're lining up for the grand final of the World Cup, the Australian leg of the grand final for the World Cup, and so Ricardo Moir is coming back up into pretty good form. So it's really important to get him just right. I need him to be relaxed and to sort of feel like he's had a good workout at the gym, that he's at one with the universe. He's worked hard, he feels good, he's fit, and he's well looked after. And so I've ridden him this morning briefly and just touched on his movements. He knows all the Grand Prix work and just sort of blown the lungs a bit, and he and I have had a man-to-man discussion. I just need to know what mood he's in and that sort of thing. And then he will go out and walk for about an hour and a half, just wandering around the trade stands and looking at the horses that are going on. And he does that with Brianna Teletsky, who's been riding him since she was 12, and she works for him. She's one of the girls now, and she's 20, and so she's for the last 8 years ridden him every day, Christmas Day as well. So she's very much a part of his life, and wherever Ricardo Moir goes, Brianna goes, and so that's an important part of it. He goes out and he knows once Brianna's just sitting on him and just hacks him on a loose rein, but it's it's quality of life, and it's a routine he's very familiar with, and that's important, that he goes out and he's been here before. He's a seriously, seasoned campaigner now, so he knows the place, and he knows where to look and where everyone's working and at which corners to peek around. He loves that. He's really, really bright. So he'll go and do that, and then about 6 o'clock this afternoon, I think, is my my test. I'll be on him probably about 30 minutes before, and we'll wander up there and sort of mooch around. And then in the last 18 minutes, the pair of us will ramp up and start to hit our straps. And in the last 5 minutes, you'll see us just blaze into life. And we'll step out of the practice arena, just exploding, and hopefully just go straight into the arena and dance our way across the arena through the Grand Prix test. The big thing with Regate Noir is he can definitely get anxious, especially once he's on his own in that competition arena. That's always been the inhibitor with him, and so that's my job to organise him so he's so focused up on me, and it's just he and I. We're against the world, and it's two gladiators doing a day at the office at our peak, and that's the zone we'll try and do that 6.5 minute test in. The AOC is suggesting, which is the Australian Olympic Committee, is suggesting that we will only select 3 riders for the team to go to London next year, 2012 Olympics. Well, we did 3 riders at the Hong Kong Olympics in 2008, and they promised that would never happen again. There would be 4 riders, and of course the 4 riders is 4 riders every 4 years. Like, that's 25% of the Australian riders that get on that team, and that's a huge percentage. Of course, we would love to win medals, but we're not going to win medals in the dressage. Eventing may be. We've got a very clear record of winning medals in eventing, but dressage, we're winding up to that. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Australia will win medals, but you have to promote a program that takes you down that pathway, and sort of cutting 25% experience and 25% of the effort going into that program is a stupid thing to do. But I think commercially they're suggesting it would be good because they wouldn't spend so much money on the Australian riders. Well, that's what the A is all about. It would mean that there's some extra accreditation for officials to go to London Olympics. That makes me mad. So I think right at the moment we probably have some very serious issues right at the top in EA that need addressing. And of course, there's always 2 sides to every story, and so there's a lot of angst associated with all of this. But I think from just a normal member, I think the EA's got it wrong at the moment.